Hello. You're getting ready to use sandbags because you're either in the middle of a flood fight, you're expecting one soon, or you're attending some training. We are going to provide you with some basic sandbagging and safety tips. This video is a visual demonstration of how to conduct sandbagging operations in the flood fight environment. It's very important for you to understand how to conduct sandbagging operations, the dangerous environment you will likely find yourself, how to establish the sandbagging area, how to properly fill and lay the sandbags for their maximum effect, and most importantly, how to keep yourself safe while working in a sandbagging operation. Let me start by telling you about the basic nature of these types of flood fight operations. Sandbagging is extremely hard work, requiring lots of physical exertion, heavy lifting, and enormous cooperation. The large sandbag levees you may have seen throughout the years on television took long hours or days to construct, with many individuals and groups working in concert to make it happen. To build any protective structures with sandbags and to do it properly takes a lot of time. Also, having a tested flood fight plan is critical to successful organization and operation. No matter what the weather condition, sandbagging is very hard work, so you need to know some basic rules to be successful. In this people against nature environment, you will likely find a lot of excited and motivated volunteers. You're one of them. Let's face it, we need you. But don't let that excitement lead you to dangerous behaviors or sloppy work. Your safety is always the #1 concern. Remember, first and foremost, your safety. We can rebuild or replace most buildings, but not someone's health or life. If you have any medical condition that could be complicated by extreme exertion, you should not get directly in the filling or handling or laying of sandbags. We can find other jobs at the site where you can make your contributions to the efforts. Regardless of what you are doing, one of the most important things you can do for yourself is drink water. Whether the flood fight is in winter or summer condition, drink lots of water and take breaks to rest yourself. Avoid soda and coffee in large amounts. These will only help to dehydrate you very quickly, so don't forget to drink the water. Sandbagging. The United States Army Corps of Engineers has actually determined the most effective way to fill and place sandbags. Just taking sandbags and pitching one on top of the other will create a mass pile of sandbags, but that pile will likely collapse or not hold against the flood water. This is a heartbreaking experience for all those involved. This video will demonstrate the step-by-step process to fill and place sandbags for their maximum effect and protection. Before you start sandbagging, you will need basic protective gear. Boots, hat, leather gloves, eye protection, and sunscreen are all important to protect yourself. What will the conditions be like where you'll be working? The area of sandbagging operations may be near the flooding area or away from it. Regardless of where sandbags are being filled or placed, it is likely to be a beehive of activity. There may be 100 or 1,000 people. There will probably be large trucks dumping sand as well as loaders moving sand or bags around the site. You must always be aware of what is happening around you to ensure your personal safety. Have you heard the sound that large equipment makes to indicate they are backing up? Be aware when you hear this sound and the danger it signals. The flood fight you joined may be organized and supported by local government, or you may find yourself placing sandbags on private property to protect a family's home or business. Regardless of where the operation is located, someone needs to be in charge. The flood fight needs a leader to direct the operation and to be accountable for the people working there. Whether you come by yourself or with a group, you should check in with the person in charge of your area. He or she is responsible for the operation and your safety. For accountability purposes, they may ask you to sign in as a volunteer at the scene. Another concern is that you may find yourself placing bags near the floodwater. If you do, remember that this is dirty and contaminated water, and you should avoid getting into the water if you can. Also, the soil near the water may be very soft and give way under your weight, so be very careful of the front line of the flood fight. Okay, let's fill some sandbags. Many people believe that filling and placing sandbags is a no-brainer, but that is far from the truth. We need to properly fill and place the bags for maximum strength against the flowing floodwater. The better we follow these methods, the better our chances for success. There are several different methods of filling sandbags. Filling each by hand with a shovel. This is the tried and true method. For larger and faster operation, you may find that someone has created a filling station. This is an easy item to construct, but should be very sturdy. A bobcat or loader may be used to dump into the filler, or sand can be shoveled into the filler by hand. Regardless of how you fill the bags, the most important point is how to fill the bags. One of the most common errors is to overfill the sandbags. Bigger is not better. Plump, overfilled bags will not lay flat and will create openings that will allow water to flow through. Furthermore, a completely full sandbag may weigh up to 130 pounds and would be difficult to carry and work with. A properly filled sandbag is only half full. This allows the bag to lay flat and mold itself into the structure. This creates a more stable structure. A properly filled sandbag weighs about 40 pounds, making it easier to handle and move. Often the top of the bag is not tied shut if it is going straight to the pile. It is simply folded over. If it is being hauled by a truck or other means, you may want to tie it in a quick knot. Now you have to move this sandbag. This is when you can hurt or strain your back. Don't drag the bag or bend over to lift it. Use proper lifting techniques to heft the bag. Also avoid tossing bags back and forth. This can hurt you and others. If you have to use gang lines to move bags, try to keep them short and close together to permit passing the bags without straining or stretching. See how they're doing it? Workers pass the materials horizontally to avoid repetitive bending and lifting. Another alternative is to move bags over short distances with wheelbarrows. Laying sandbags and stretching the plastic sheeting, also known as poly, is the front line of the flood fight. There is no room in this important activity for hasty or sloppy work, as errors may be difficult if not impossible to fix. Because of footing at the sandbag site may be uneven or muddy, it is important to always watch your footing. Rapidly rising water may create dangerous situations. You should always be prepared for an emergency evacuation to higher ground.
Is that where you want it?
The sandbags require exact placement. A survey line may be used to indicate the proper placement line for the bags. This line may be marked with wooden stakes, string lines, lime, or ground paint. You can see that we have used ground paint and tape to mark the survey line. A key trench is essential for success. The key trench is an excavation 4 to 6 inches deep and between 18 and 24 inches wide. This width is about 2 sandbags. The key trench provides an anchor for the sandbag structure. Key trenches may be dug with a backhoe or by hand. Poly is placed in the key trench and then anchored with sandbags. The survey line and the supervisor determine the placement of the key trench. Be sure the poly is placed on the water side of the structure. Without a properly constructed key trench, the tremendous force of the floodwater may push through your sandbag structure. This is particularly true if your structure is built on wet ground. The key trench and the poly prevent water from seeping under the emergency structure and undermining it. To create a good water barrier, the plastic sheeting known as poly should be anchored in the key trench. The poly should be carefully unfolded and placed in the key trench towards the water side of the structure. For long structures, multiple rows of poly will be needed. Once the sandbags are in place on the poly and it is placed on the water side of the structure, you will have a good water barrier. Although difficult, missing poly can be placed right in the floodwater itself. The poly should be opened and then anchored with sandbags on the water side of the structure. It can then be draped back over the structure and capped. While this method is not as effective as poly placed properly in the key trench and built upon, it will still significantly reduce the water infiltration through the structure. Poly and sandbags will not make the structure completely watertight. It will just slow down the water flow significantly. Without the poly, you have a very porous barrier. This will increase the need for pumps that are usually in short supply. Sandbags are stacked in alternating rows like a mason would stack bricks. The alternating joints provide a good structural strength. Simply fold over the bag from the top or fold over one corner of the bag to the opposite side. This triangular fold serves the same purpose. Lay the bags like bricks. Someone should be in charge of stomping the bags into place. This process is called lodging. Lodging pushes and molds the bags into potential openings between the bags and helps eliminate gaps. Having someone going along and lodging bags also provides for a quick check of placement and structure, ensuring quality, which is so important. As stated earlier, sandbagging is very hard work and slow work. Here is why. Sandbags are stacked in a pyramidal structure using a 3-to-1 ratio. This means that for every foot in height you go up, there needs to be a base of 3 feet. So for a 3-foot high structure, you should have a 9-foot wide base. This is the kind of mass you need to fight the hydraulic pressure being exerted by the floodwater. Once the proper height has been obtained, the poly must be snugly draped back over the structure and capped in place. Several sandbags should then be placed on top of the poly to secure it. The combination of the key trench, which is the critical anchor, the 3-to-1 ratio, which provides mass, and the poly as an additional water barrier combine to create a very good flood prevention structure. Manholes, sewers, and utility channels may traverse emergency levees or structures you build and may allow the flow of water behind the floodworks. Sandbags should not be placed on manhole covers in attempts to stem the flow of water. The tremendous water pressure will easily push past such attempts. Instead, a manhole cover should be ringed with sandbags. Similar problems like the manholes can be expected on the dry side of the floodworks. Often, a bubbling spring-like structure will develop. These are called sand boils. They are a natural occurrence as water flows the path of least resistance, which may be underneath your flood fight structure. They may be caused by animal burrows or just the pressure of the water. These are conduits of flood water and can occur when water bubbles up on the dry side of the floodworks. A clean sand boil is when the water coming out of the ground is relatively clear of debris in the flowing water. This is not a problem and should be expected. If this is discovered, it should be reported to your team leader. These clean boils will require periodic monitoring, but usually require no further action. The other type of sand boil can be a significant problem. Known as dirty sand boils, the flow out of it will contain sand and soil, looking dirty. This means the material is moving along with the water and erosion is taking place somewhere between the water and the sand boil. This erosion can lead to serious problems. To combat a dirty sand boil, ring the area of seepage with sandbags. Do not attempt to stop the flow by placing bags on top of the water flow. It will only spring up somewhere else. You can even create a small flow channel out of the ring if you wish, or let it flow over the bags. The dirty sand boil requires close monitoring and should be reported to your team leader as a dirty sand boil. A potential problem in many flood fights is the placement of bags around building foundations and basement walls. Placing bags against or even near a foundation or basement wall may cause more damage to the structure than the floodwaters. The tremendous water pressure, coupled with the weight of filled sandbags, can easily collapse walls and flood the building. Floodworks and sandbag structures need to be kept at least 6 feet from foundations and basement walls. Provide more room if you can. This allows the sandbag structure to resist the water pressure and the ground to absorb the water. Follow the steps of sandbagging previously described. Dig the key trench, place the poly, and stack the bags like bricks. Lodge the bags and cap the poly for a good solid structure. Well, that concludes our quick coverage of flood fighting with sandbags. We hope you remember the basics. Remember, safety is always the #1 priority. Don't forget to protect yourself with the proper gear. Don't overexert yourself, and be sure to drink lots of water regardless of the temperature. Use your legs to lift bags and don't lift with your back. Don't throw bags back and forth. This can hurt people. Follow the survey line laid out for you. Pile the bags like laying bricks. Remember, for every foot in elevation, you need 3 to support it. Lodge the bags into place by having someone stomp on them. Pull the poly over the sandbag structure and cap it off with bags. Watch for sand boils. Report them to your team leader. Keep an eye on them. If the water in the sand boil is dirty, ring it with bags. Don't pile the bags against foundations or walls. Move out 6 feet or more and construct your sandbag wall step by step. That's it. Our tips for successful flood fighting with sandbags. Thank you for volunteering to help. Remember, Be safe and good luck. You are on the front line of the flood fight.